is Luis, and this is my story.
All right, Luis. Well, we're here. It's been a long time coming. I know you were one of the initial people to sign up for the testimony interview, so I thank you for your patience above all else because I know you've been waiting for quite a bit of time. I'm excited to hear your story, man. I know it's going to be a good one. Um, talking to people at church and even just observing you at church. You're always in a good mood. You're always in good spirits. I've noticed you're very servant hearted. Every time I see you at church, you're doing something, you're helping somebody. I think every time I actually see you, you are like serving on some sort of team on the day.
Yeah.
And so it's inspiring to see that just servant heart, day in and day out. I'm curious, is that something that you've always had, that servant heart mentality, or is that something that you've just recently discovered in yourself?
Yeah. So I think before church, it was so much. It was always there. It was always in a traditional thing, cultural thing with my family. As far as like, my dad would always tell me if someone's in need, give that helping hand. But it did spike a little bit more in church. It was more. There was that heart posture there. As far as like, I'm not serving myself. I'm serving the Lord. I'm serving the community that I'm with, and I did that with the heart posture, uh, 100% towards Jesus, and it just stems something where um, I'm His servant at the end of the day.
Okay, nice. And so, we were talking about it this morning before we got started on this interview that you recently started going to church, right? I mean, what was life like before, coming to Coin? Did you grow up in church? Was your family in the faith, or what was your childhood like?
Uh, just to start off, yeah, life before coin was messy. Yeah, Catholic religion. So we would show up to church every now and then. It was that Sunday, occasional Sunday, where it had to be a special occasion why we were at church. It wasn't something where we were consistent. It was obviously hard to get there, but yeah, we were going to church. Um, Again, it was just special occasions, but yeah, it wasn't something that was consistent. So 100%, it wasn't there.
Yeah. So what was that like for you going to church, for those, I'm guessing like the Easters and things like that, right? Um, how did you feel that impacted your faith? Did you feel like, oh, this is just something we do? Did you have any questions or any actual beliefs, or it was just like a checking off a box kind of thing?
I think it was more of a checking off a box. 100%. As when I was there, nothing was stemmed, nothing was rooted, nothing impacted me. I didn't feel anything. It was always, we would pull into church, and it was the first thing was, don't make no noise. Where we're sitting in the back, that family is like, don't say anything. So it was more, I felt like I needed to be there because my family was there. It wasn't I was excited to show up. This was meaning something to me. But yeah, it wasn't a thing where I would ask my parents, "Are we going to church this Sunday?" It was like when they would tell us we were going to church, it's like I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So who was leading that? Was it like your father, your mother? Which one of your parents was like?
100% my mom. My father was not religious at all. It was like for our first communion or stuff like that. Literally, my father would step outside of church. He would not attend. It was one thing where he just didn't want to be in that environment. He wasn't so much a believer. So it was always my mom that would always push us. We're going to church on Sunday. She would get us into those communion classes and all that stuff. She pushed us more towards that. It was a church that was right around the corner from our house. So it was more my mom than anything, 100%.
Mm. And how did, I mean, without digging too much into your family history, how was that dynamic between your parents where one was in the faith to a degree and then the other one would like step outside? Like did they get along when it came to religion, or was there any issues with that?
100%. I feel like the relationship that my father and my mother had at the time was, they kept it behind closed doors 100% of the time. But we can always tell, we can always see like the emotions rising. And as far as like, my mom would always ask that question, would you like to come? But it was more of like a thing. She knew that he just didn't want to step foot into the church. So there was that conflict there for a bit. It was just a point, obviously, where she didn't want to try anymore. She got to a point where it was just, she knew the answer, so she wasn't going to ask the question. But yeah, my dad was just, there was no interest there.
And so, fast forwarding a little bit before we continue on to the interview is you're in this position now where you're doing this testimony interview and you're sharing your story. Like, what was that road to get to this position? Like, where did it change for you from we're going because my parents said or my mom said to now this is a choice that I'm making? What was that road like?
100% it was a tough road. It was, again, we speak, there's no such thing as coincidence, it's always God's timing. So from even being young till now, there was always that question as far as like, is God real? Is God gonna do what he's doing for others for me? They started spiking that question as far as like, I would go to church sometimes voluntarily, and it was more of like I'm at my lowest. So it's like I need to go somewhere. I need to find something, you know? So I would 100% start going to the Catholic churches on my own. And it was like, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up. I'm going to try to find something. I'm going to try to find something. And I would show up to Catholic, and it was like I was yawning mid service. I was yawning. It was like I was looking at the clock. When is this going to be over? Um, I feel like when I did hit my lowest, it was that finding figure of like, let me find something. You know, there has to be something out there. Why am I going through all this? Why me and not anybody else? So 100% the interest arise 100% from like then to now. And it was more of my heart posture. It's like I wanted to do better for myself. I knew that my family wasn't so consistent on it. It was like I wanted to do better for that same reason.
And so, if you don't mind me asking, what was that lowest point for you where you felt like, okay, like I need to go out of all places to church, right? Because I mean, we have a bunch of different vices we can lean into, right? Friendships and some people have shared other things that were vices for them. What was it about your lowest point where you felt like church is where you should go?
I think my lowest point was definitely I was choosing to do wrong. It was me choosing to do wrong, deliberately choosing for me to like. So specifically going into it, my lowest point was my ex girlfriend had ended up cheating on me at that time, and I just lost it. I 100% lost it. I was going out. I was drinking constantly, drinking and driving. Financially was not doing well, and I didn't feel any love. I didn't feel that I had to wake up the next morning with joy. I didn't feel like there was purpose the next day. It was just, I know tomorrow I'm going to get drunk. I know tomorrow I'm going to do this. I know tomorrow I'm going to get back at this time. I might not get home back tomorrow, you know? So there was a lot of that. And I just wanted to feel peace. Peace is what I was seeking, you know? So once I got to that lowest point, it was, there has to be something better than this because I'm at my lowest, you know? So 100% just trying to find that.
Okay. And do you feel like at that time that you were like bound to those things? Do you think that like that became part of who you believed you were? Was somebody who was just always had to drink, always had to like live that lifestyle? Or was that just you trying to escape certain things?
100% it was escaping the emotions. It was like when I was intoxicated, it was I wasn't thinking about it. Half of the other thing was as well is the friends that I was around, that group that I was around was if they're doing this, it's okay for me to do this. You know, they look happy when they do it. So that's what I was seeking is like we're having a good time. So it's like when I'm sober, feel the complete opposite. It's like when I'm drinking, I'm happy about this or that or this, you know? So I would 100% go that to cover other things, but it was more like the friends around me also had a lot to do that because that was the only thing that I really knew. That was the only thing that I was around. You know, I wasn't around high driven man, disciplined man. I wasn't around that. It was sometimes they would call off, you know, their responsibilities weren't responsibilities. They weren't the first thing that I was seeking. So I started becoming more like them and it just became normal to me at that point.
Yeah. During that time, did you still have like a relationship with God or were you just not even, were you not attending church at that time?
I was not attending church at all. Yeah, 100%. It was Sundays I would wake up hungover and it was a reset, you know? Yeah, it wasn't a thing at that point.
So what was it that shifted that? Because there's a point where you hit, let's say, rock bottom. What was that moment where you're like, okay, I need to do something. Something needs to change because this isn't working anymore.
Yeah, so 100% I think what it was is I seen the road my dad was going down. I seen that I was kind of becoming a lot like him. You know, it was just to leave it out there. It was my dad was a drug dealer, you know, some time of his life. Big part of his life was he was going down that rabbit hole as far as like the easy money. And it was always either drinking when we were younger, or it was always the lustful going off after the women. My parents divorced around when I was like 12. So it was always when I was with him, I lived with him, until I was 18. I seen all that stuff. I seen that poison that he was going back to. I seen the vomit that he was going back to. It was a constant thing, constant thing, constant thing. So when I seen myself living that life as well, it was like, I do not want to go down that road. I 100% do not want to go down that road. Around that time, my family was living in Texas, and my youngest sister was just speaking life into, she wanted to start getting into ministry. She wanted to start attending school. And 3, 4 years prior to that, my mom started attending Christian church. Never actually fell into Christian. She was never baptized. She never gave her life completely to it. It was just there. She would go every now and then. So I started seeing that part of my family as far as like they're speaking life, she's speaking life. My sister would always post stories of like the Bible and reading that, and I was like, what book is that? So my thing was like, what is that? But she was speaking life. She was happy about it. It was something that she was determined to do. It was something that it looked like she was happy. And I want to be like that. I want to have that in my life. So 100% it was around that time where I started seeing that, and it was like, I want to kind of go that way instead of going this way, because this way it's like I feel dark and rotten from the inside, but there's hope this way. Like I want to shift my way that way, become someone better, because I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
And how do you feel that was met by the outside eyes who were watching you and saying, "Hey, you're this person. You're the person that goes out drinking. You're the person that does this. Now you want this." How was that met on the other end?
I think 100% as far as on the outside eyes, people were holding me accountable to that. It was a constant thing where people were letting me know that what I was doing was definitely not right. In that time, I thought it was right. I thought I was a normal. As far as my mom would always tell me, it was a thing where it's like, Mijo, you're at the end of the day, this is where you're gonna either end up in trouble, you're drinking and driving, and that can end the total opposite. So it's like she gave me that push. She gave me that lightness in the darkness to be able to come out from that.
Mm. Okay. And when you started leaning in a little more to the faith, how were those friendships that you had? The ones that were maybe not the most positive or encouraging, did they receive it well or were they resistant to it?
100% it was a quick, I think it was a quick decision that I made where it's like I kind of wanted to start going that way. So they 100% noticed it.
Mhm.
It was, I moved further from them. I moved further from them. So it was like, where's Luis? Where's he at? Why isn't he coming out anymore? So it stemmed from 100%. That shift that I had was they started asking those questions. Those questions started arising. Judgmental, 100%, because it was like now they don't have anybody to do that with. Now they're alone. Now it seems like he wants to do something better. And in the eyes of somebody else that's going down, they always want to drag someone down with them. So once I was getting away from that, they knew that it was like now they're on their own. So yeah, 100% judgmental. I always get those messages, where are you at? Why are you trying to change? This is who you are. It was like that. This is who you are. You can't be anybody else type of thing.
Did you believe that this is who you were?
100%. 100%. I was still trying to get away from it, but that's all I knew. That's all I ever lived. So I continued to start going back and believing into it. So I started again. It arose again. Yeah, 100% started where it was a Friday, and they're like, "Oh, come on, come on! It's just one day. We're not gonna do much." So they started lying, and they would put in those little lies that it wasn't gonna be a long night, and it ended up being a long night. You know.
And so what was that, I don't want to say recovery, but what was that process of like, okay, I slipped, I fell back into this. Was it easy for you to just go back to the faith or start asking the questions again, or did you stay down for a while?
It wasn't a while. It was running became something very big in my life, where that was my therapy. It was I would go out and run until I got tired and I didn't want to be there anymore. So I 100% started going to like run clubs. I started associating myself with all that stuff. It was more of, I kind of want to become a man that has discipline, a man that has goals, a man that's driven for something. It's not always in the same spot. So I started signing up for run clubs, and found this run club in Rancho Cucamonga where it was Tuesdays, and miraculously it was running as me. This is one thing that I'm good at. 100% one thing that I'm good at. So it arose from there where I started seeking back into it. It's like I can become someone better than what I am. You know, there is that hope, there is that possibility. So I 100% it was one thing that I didn't stay there. It wasn't a disease that caught me and I was like, I'm just gonna be stuck here forever. My mindset was set to chase after one thing, and it was becoming someone better. You know, it was still as far as like I wanted to do the work myself, but I was getting away from the darkness little by little. I wasn't going back to the to that, you know.
So, as you're on this walk of, discovering who you want to be and becoming a better person, still occasionally slipping back into the old lifestyle, what was your relationship with your family like? Did they like see the changes and continue to encourage you? Did they kind of harp on the mistakes you were making, or what was that like?
Yeah, I think 100% when my family saw where I was headed to, they definitely seen it right away. Because I'm telling you, when I was at my lowest, like anybody and everybody can tell like that I was there. So yeah, 100%. I think that they were very, very encouraging, supportive. They would let me know that this is who I can become. This is who they want me to become. Continue to give me those supportive messages in the morning. Hey, Miko, have a good day. You're doing good. It was more of they were giving me that joy that the day is gonna be okay. So it was like a constant. My family wanted to be there, so that they kind of seen that I know. Oh, you know what? My family is proud of me. You know, I'm not gonna become just some random person that keeps falling back. So 100% hope was there from them. Yeah. So I appreciate them 100%.
Now, your family dynamic, I know you mentioned sister, right? Is it just you and your sister, or how many siblings do you have?
I have two sisters. Yeah, one older sister and one younger sister.
Okay, so you're the middle child.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Now, you said your younger sister is the one that started, like, was inspired by ministry, right? Is she still on that walk?
Yes and no. Right now, I think she's in a season where she's kind of confused on that. It was more of a thing where at the time she was on fire for God, on fire for God, and right now, since she has a lot in life, she's going to school for ultrasound tech. She's working. I think 100% she's fixated her life on that. So when it's like she is busy, she does have that occasional like they're drinking and stuff like that, which is 100%. I'm not judging them. I love my family. But yeah, she was on fire before, and continue to pray that she can get back on the road right now and just find that path again with Jesus. Because the number one thing that I want to see is I want to see my family have that fire for God, you know, have that motivation to want to be better in God's eyes. And that goes for everybody because what I live now through the faith, what I live now with my community, I just want to be like, I'll give this to you. Go ahead and feel what I'm feeling. And that's all I want to see. All I want to see for them is happiness and peace. Exact same thing that I went through, you know, I want them to go through it as well and feel the same thing.
Awesome. And then what about your older sister? Is she in the faith?
Yes, she is. She goes to church. She goes to a church in Bell, California. I think it's Calvary Chapel Bell. So she attends there. Busy life with their kids. That occasional the soccer and all that stuff. They're in season right now, so when she definitely has the time, she does go. You know, she continues to talk to me about scripture and stuff. We'll have those conversations. But yeah, she has a busy life, so when she has the time, she slips in there. Yeah, so 100%, she's living in faith right now.
Now, going back to the relationship with your parents, if you don't mind, you mentioned that your parents split up when you were 12, and then you lived with your dad till you were 18.
Mhm.
What was that relationship like after? Did you move out at 18 or?
Yes, so it was 18. I moved out. I moved up north. The life before, as far as like high school, middle school, reason to leading to why I moved out was the relationship that I had with my dad. And I'm saying past life, past person, you know, that person's gone. But I was very stubborn. I was very hard headed. Me and my father had the same exact personality, or I had that personality. We would always clash heads. There was a constant argument for that, like the dumbest reasons. Why did you put in the clothes before the water started, type of thing when we're washing. So it was, yeah, tough as far as like arising from that. But after that, as far as like me living on my own, my dad was a very good person as far as like he would put others before himself. That's 100% that I would always see. He would put others before himself. So I left um, just seeking that as far as like that one good thing that I seen from my dad is I left and I moved out, got a place with my girlfriend, started that responsibility life early. As far as like we had a house, all those responsibilities came quick. They came quick, but it was just one thing is I wanted to run away from that. I wanted to run away from the constant arguments. I left, moved out, and just started living life quick, very quick, 100%. I think at 18, having those responsibilities of having a home already, like that's a lot to endure. So it started quick. Yeah.
You mentioned running away, right? And I know, when we have these dynamics with our family, and I have a similar story, where we're just not seeing eye to eye with our parents. We want to get away from that. Was there anything else that you were trying to run from, or was it just the dynamic between you and your father?
Yes. So going into the detail, at this point, I would see constantly the things that my dad would do. My dad was selling drugs out of our home. And when I would see that, that's just something that I said to myself, I don't want to be around. But I got into it. I got into the same thing. It's like if I see at home and my dad's doing it and he hasn't gotten in trouble and he hasn't gotten caught and the consequences haven't came, it's like, okay, I can do it too. I seen the money that was coming in. So I started doing it. I started doing that. I got into it and 100% um, something that hits me hard is that's one of my lowest points as well. It's like, how can I fall into that? How can I start doing uh, that type of thing? It was like I was giving people a disease. I was giving people like the worst thing that you can give someone because when obviously someone gets addicted to drugs, it's bad. It gets bad. It gets bad quick. So I started dealing, and I did it separately because I knew at the end of the day that that was still there. What was like if my dad found out, he was gonna be disappointed. He was gonna give me a hard time. He was gonna give me trouble. It was gonna go like down the road. So I started doing that, and that's one thing that I just wanted to run away from. I seen the money was coming quick. Um, Obviously, it was a life that was tiring. It was obviously a life that I knew was wrong, but because I seen it on a day-to-day basis, it was like I can do that. It was a normal thing that I can do. It was I didn't see it too much of a big thing, a big problem if my father is doing it.
It's interesting to hear you share this perspective because I would have never known, obviously, had you not told me. But now that you've walked away from that life, it seems like at one point that was your identity, right? Like it was like, this is who I am. This is who I'm going to become. I don't want to, but I'm becoming like my father. You run away. How does that shape your identity? How does that shift things for you?
A big shift, a very very big shift. It was a long time where I was doing it. So as far as like moving from that to now, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. I did it. I arose from that. So that shift, as far as changing from who I was then to who I am now, it was not easy. It was not easy. It was not an easy thing. But I know at the end of the day, who I am now and where I'm sitting now, I wouldn't have been able to do anything without God. Coincidences are not real. It's God's timing. It's God's doing this. God has seen me through all that path. God has seen me doing all that. And He was just basically saying, son, you'll figure it out. You know, you're only gonna go one way, and you're gonna come home. So along all that way, I look back now, and it's all the things that I did mean something. It happened for a reason, because I no longer when I did those things, I no longer went back to them. I was getting away from it little by little. Now I wasn't changing 100%, but the closer I was getting to God, it was like those things were fading away.
You started having this change of like, I don't want to live this life anymore. Now I want to start leaning into faith. I see my sister posting about it. I want that happiness too, right? Before you actually dove into the faith, were there any questions you had about God or the faith in general that you maybe didn't feel comfortable asking or didn't know where to start, finding those answers?
100%. I think the main question there was because I'm such a bad person, because I've done, all the bad things that I've done. Can I still conquer? Can I still be victorious in this? Can I still overcome this? Like, if I do get into the faith, how is that going to be like, is it going to become me being accepted by who I'm with? Is God going to truly accept me? Or is it because I've done anything, he's going to hold me accountable to those things? Is he going to judge me? Now, am I any different from someone that's lived a pure life or someone that's lived a life like me? Was I gonna bring that disease with me? Um, yeah, the main question was that is like, am I worthy enough to be able to do this?
So you latched onto this identity of unclean, of not being good enough. That's I feel like that's a very common thing that people deal with. I mean, not to make it about our story at all, but I had very similar experience where like, should I even be here? Is this where I should be? So you latched onto that belief, you would say,
100%. Yeah, anchored me down.
anchored you down. Now there has to be a barrier that we break through, right? Where it's like you have those feelings of unworthiness, but then you still push through. So what was it that drove you to continue to push through? I know you mentioned happiness. Was there any person that like helped push you in those moments where you maybe felt like, I shouldn't be here, I shouldn't be here, but this person or these people were like, let's continue on. You can do this.
Yeah, 100%. I think around this time where that picture was painted is, again, I'm going back to that run club that I was with. I seen Kimberly Ayala. Shout out to Kimberly Ayala. She would post coin consistently, and I would see this, and I would see from like the perspective of what she was posting was behind that camera is like there's a smile there. She is like on fire to post these pictures. She is so proud to be in this space. So that was the push. It was like, no, you did all these things, but you can become this way. There is hope. There is a path down the road that you can be able to get there. So 100% when I seen Kimberly Ayala posting all those things, it was like you can become this person. Like, this is not going to hold you back. This is not your identity. That was someone that you lived before. If you truly want to leave that behind, it's like you have to start something new. You can't like carry those things with you. So seeing Kimberly Ayala's post and seeing coins and all that is like, I want to live that. I want to live that 100%. And it pushed me to that.
So now I guess in a reflective question, you had this belief of being unclean and unworthy. What is something you know to be true now that you didn't know back then?
It was all then lies, 100%. I was believing lies. I was believing the past friends that I had, that they didn't want me to succeed. They didn't want me to be better. Now it's that's no longer who you are. You're not. That was all meant for a reason to shape me to who I am now. And yeah,
So you mentioned, just now that you believe these lies that, your friends didn't want you to be better. They didn't want like positive things, I guess you could say, right? Earlier you mentioned that your dad was kind of opposed to the faith almost, where he was, stepping out, didn't wasn't a believer and things like that. How I mean, how was your relationship with your father, impacted after you started this journey or even, once you moved out? Like what was that relationship like?
definitely. I think because of the relationship that we had where we would always clash, it was I wanted our relationship to get better. I didn't know how it was going to get better, but it was, even though I had left and I had moved out, it was, I always wanted to find the time to be around my dad. So in my childhood, we rode horses. We were that Latino family that owned horses, and we would go out and do stuff. So 100% that was like where I wanted to seep into. It was like, I want to do this with my dad. I want to get closer to my dad through this. So the relationship that I had with my dad around that time was, even though I seen my dad doing the things that he was doing, it was, if that's one thing that we're gonna bond in, if that's one thing that we're gonna share, and that's one thing that we're gonna be close to, it's like, I'm gonna do it. So I started going into that. I started going into that aspect as far as when we would go out, we would be out till like 4 or 5 in the morning. My dad would, funny to say, but my dad would fight roosters. We would be out till 6 in the morning, and at this point, it was, that's all I knew. That's the only life that I knew. So we would be out there, and I was bonding with him. I was sharing those same interests, and it became a norm to me where that was my life. That's who I was. And just being around that environment with my dad is, now I see it as, how could a father be able to say that this is something good? Like, I'm showing this to my son. This is okay. Like, I'm okay with him seeing all this stuff. It's, I would look at my friends, even when I was like uprising, I was looking at my friends and the good jobs that they had, and they were already buying houses and they had nice cars and stuff like this, but they were doing it the right way, not the wrong way. They looked happy. I would go to sleep, go up, wake up, and oh, I have to do this, and this today to be able to like make this money. And the way that I would make that money sometimes, like, it, it it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because at that point it was normal. And my dad would even encourage me sometimes. Uh, it got to the point where my dad started seeing those things and he kind of pointed it out. He kind of pointed it out as far as like, I do want what's best for you, Mijo, but you got to find a different way. You got to find a different way. So there was that hope that, okay, you know what? My dad does know that there is potential for me to grow as well. But when I stepped away from that, as far as like doing those things, I ended up finding a really good job and stood there. Lost that job for, I had a car accident back in that day. I had a really bad car accident in those days where I was out drinking and driving. I was out doing that stuff and ended up falling asleep behind the wheel. So I lost that job. So went back to the only thing I knew other than working that job was, I can do this, I can do that. So I ended up connecting with a friend, friend from back then, and kind of asked him, hey, like, I'm in a tough spot. Try to get me out of it. Help me to get out of this tough spot. Got into some bad things with him. Ended up getting back into the same thing. My dad didn't know at this point, because around the time that I had that good job and I had the house, my dad started saying, "Hey, this is my son. My son is doing good things. My son is doing this, and that." So I didn't want to go back to that same life as far as like my dad seeing that. So I ended up connecting with this other guy, and I ended up doing these things, and it was just day after day. I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew what I was doing wasn't right. But I just continued to choose it because that's all I knew. So I ended up getting into quote unquote, you can say, into the drug dealer life. This guy kept telling me, you know what, at the end of the day, we're gonna have the nice trucks, we're gonna have the nice cars, we're gonna have this and this and that. And ended up going fully in, 100% ended up going in and started doing those things. It was, at this point, I had owned guns. I had owned guns because I was into hunting and shooting and all that stuff. That was a hobby of mine. And it's just specific a night where I knew I had a heart, but I knew at the end of the day, if I wanted to succeed in this life, I couldn't show it. I couldn't show like that mercy part of me, having that mercy with others. So I ended up doing some really bad things that night. Where that's where one of my lowest points as well was. Basically, long story short, I ended up going with this guy. We ended up meeting up, and things went south. Things went south with just that whole transactional thing that we were doing. Just transaction of a substance. So, at that point, person didn't want to pay. Whatever. Long story short, the guy tells me we gotta get this out of him. If not, we're gonna get in trouble. The concerts are gonna come to us. So at this point, it was, he was telling me, he was like, "Do you have it on you? Do you have the gun on you?" You know, and I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "All right, we'll take it out. We're gonna scare him. We'll scare him. We're not gonna do anything, but we'll scare him. We have to get paid because I'm sure you do not want to tell the upper hands that we're gonna not have the money for them." So yeah, that arose, and 100%, like, lowest the point of my life. And at that point, I knew in there, it was like my hands were shaking. I didn't want to do it. But again, I go back. It's like the only thing I knew. It was kind of the only thing I knew, and not much people know this about me. It's like, how can I do that? How can I go ahead and do that to someone? That other person probably has done it to other people. That was my excuse. He's probably done it to other people. Why can't I? You know. So yeah, definitely, just doing those things was a big reflection on me knowing who my dad was as well. But the things that he was doing is, it's okay. It's normal. Tomorrow I'm still gonna wake up at the end of the day, and it's gonna be okay. You know. So yeah, 100%. That relationship that I had with my dad was messy, messy because I only knew one thing. I wanted to get away from it, but I only knew one thing around that time.
So, I mean, hearing that side of your story, it's it's an interesting perspective to see who you were and who you are now. And so, I mean, I think that there's a lot to be said about your walk and how you've been able to remain so committed to the community and to the church in its entirety. If you could just kind of summarize it very quickly, what do you think God saved you from?
I think the worst is possibly taking someone's life. That I think that's the savior of going down a hole that I could never get myself out of, or just going into something that I can never get myself out of. Um, just the heart posture behind it, as far as like I was at one point going to do that. I can never go back and do that. Now I only have to go one way. It's hold grace, love others, love thy neighbor. Um, see things differently. See things differently because potentially I could have. Potentially I could have, I really could have. And he saved me from so many other things, but 100% saved me from that. That's one important part is he's basically said, you can no longer go back there, son. You can no longer go back there because that's a disease that's going to rot you from the inside out.
How do you remain obedient? Because I mean, in the past, you've been able to, not been able to, but you've slipped into that lifestyle. What's keeping you moving forward now in the faith?
My community, 100%. 100% my community. The guys, the women there, they hold me accountable. They hold me accountable 100%. But I think the example that they set, it's that past life has nothing to do with me now. It's not who I am now. So my community, just seeing Pastor Sam or seeing JC or seeing Steven and Rich or seeing that they live a happy life, they're bringing their kids into coin. They're working their jobs, they're providing for their family. Uh, scripture, just having that drive in scripture where I see scripture and I see verses and it's like, wow, this book was written before I did all this. Even before I knew what was this, it's like all the verses that are in there sometimes it's like, okay, how does this know that what I went through is gonna actually like involve scripture and it's gonna help me get through this? So community 100%, it's what keeps me going because I have been very vulnerable with community and it's always been a shame thing where in like the machismo family, if you cry, if you show your weaknesses, you're not a man. That's what my dad always told me. Never cry. Why are you crying? You're weak if you cry. And 100% when I stepped foot into coin, it's okay to show these emotions. It's okay for prayer. It's okay for a hug. It's okay for me to let this out. Because the only thing that can happen if I let this out, people are going to encourage me. They're going to hold me accountable. They're going to call me out on my wrongs. They're going to call me out when I'm doing good. And that's 100% one thing that I love. Is that they're not only there to be like, hey, you know what? Well, I feel like you didn't do this today. You should be doing this. No, it's like when I do the good things, they point that out. And that's a warm feeling to me. Because I didn't really get that from my dad growing up. I didn't get a good job today, mijo. It was even if I did something good, it was like, but you should have done it like this, or you should have done it a different way. So
Criticism with it.
exactly 100% that criticism behind it. So with coin and all that stuff, I've understood the true meaning of grace. Grace. Accepting it. I didn't know how to accept grace. I did not know how to accept grace. When someone told me, hey, you did a good job today, I'd be like, okay, it was tough for me. So yeah, community 100%. Community 100%. The friendships that I've gone there, well, they're family now. 100% they're family. I wouldn't want to be anybody else. Coin is home. 100%.
That actually leads me to my next question because I know you have quite the commute to to coin every Sunday and you're there, like that's a commitment. That's a commitment that most people aren't willing to make. Your commute is probably about an hour, would you say?
A little over an hour, yeah.
A little
With
over an
traffic, sometimes an hour and 10, an hour 15 minutes, yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I mean, you could easily find another church, right? I mean, there's probably 20 of them on your way to Coin. So what is it specifically about Coin that you are like, this is home,
Yeah.
you know?
I think just even the first day that Kim kind of took me into a coin, and I got there early, and it was that day, the first day that January 5th, January
We
5th.
know that now.
We talked about it earlier. January 5th, stepped foot. I got there super early. It was back in the day when the gatherings were 11:30, 11:30. I was there like at 10:30, I think, just early, there early, thinking about it, 100% just thinking about it, contemplating. And I got there and I went up to the front and everybody was just hug after hug. Hey, how are you? Welcome. I did not know what that was. I did not know what that was. Those smiles, I didn't know. I was like, these people are faking. These people are faking their happiness. Like,
Wow.
so just walking into that environment, stepping into it, um, worship. Never had heard a song of worship before. It was always that the Catholic religion, like alabale, alabale, like
Yeah.
those type of things back in the day. So just her letting me know as well is let it all out, you know, open heart. He's gonna do his work in you. You can't force it. You're not gonna force it. God on my knees. I didn't even know what it meant to get what the meaning of getting on your knees and lifting up your hands. I did not know what that meant, but I did it. I performed that and started crying, bawling. It was an instant where there was like so much weight here, but all like I felt like he got behind me and he took those weights off and put them to the side. That's what I felt. So remembering that day that it was so easy for me to be vulnerable, it was so easy for me to be truthful to myself and letting myself cry, not knowing what else or anybody else thought of me. I cried. I let it out. And that hug and the comfort, the nourishment of from Kimberly, from others, the prayers that our prayer team has for us, that day was like it was an addicting feeling. I was addicted to it. It was like, okay, I feel happy here. 100% I feel happy here. Like the day before, if I'm not mistaken, the day before that day at Coin, I was out drinking. I was out drinking. It was like 11 at night when I texted Kimberly, hey, like, I've seen that you posted this. Like, when do you guys have your next service? I knew. I 100% knew.
Yeah.
I asked her, I was like, how do I know if God is touching my heart? She was like, if you're asking this question, that means that he's already working in you. Yeah. So 100%, uh, I knew I wanted it. I knew I wanted better. I knew I wanted better. I knew that was a space. I didn't know exactly at that moment. Um, but just how everybody at Coin, it's not all sunshine and rainbows there. It's not. But no one's hiding. No one's hiding from their fears. No one's hiding from the darkness. You know, other people there uplift you. Other people will call you out on your wrongs. And that's one thing that I struggled with a lot. It's when someone tell me, hey, you didn't do this correctly today, I would get defensive. My pride would overrise. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm all right. And just it's within itself how welcoming they are, how close we are. 100% in that time, if I'm just being 100% vulnerable, I felt like I was closer to Coin than with my actual family. Yeah, 100%. Because I got close to them quick. It was I wanted to be there on Wednesdays. I wanted to be there on Sundays. I wanted to be there in between. I wanted to see the people from Coin more often. So yeah, super grateful for Coin. 100%. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, of course, I can agree with every single word of that statement. Is we've been in the faith for just about or at Coin for just about the same amount of time, and yeah, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing, 100%. Um, I think that your story tells one of like redemption, right? It tells like who you were and who you are now, as far as like the peace within yourself. Because outwardly people can speak life into you, put hands on you, and pray for you and things like that. What is the soul care that you're doing to forgive yourself for the life that you once lived?
I believe at the end of the day, I don't hold anybody accountable for what I did. I did see a lot of the things, and obviously it starts from home. But I think 100% what I always carry with me is God's forgiveness. You know, Other people sinned constantly, and God forgave them like this. You know, his sacrifice didn't mean. Nothing. Once I understood what it meant, you know, that the just the fact of the things that I did back then to who I am now, that alone is enough. That alone is enough for me to give myself grace 100%. Just allow to give myself grace. Because if I constantly go back on the things that I did, it's that is not matter anymore. You know, what matters now is who I am now. Yeah.
All right. So, Luis, we thank you again for being part of this interview. It's truly a blessing to be on this side of the camera and just hearing your story. Now, you've been a supporter of the Narrow Collective since, honestly, since the beginning. Since you were like one of the first people that signed up. I know I mentioned that to you earlier. Um, the Narrow Collective was built on this scripture, Matthew 7:14. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only few find it. Now, I've shared in pretty much, well, actually in every testimony what that scripture means to me, and why that inspired this whole idea. It's about finding this narrow road straight to Jesus, and kind of leaving behind your old life, and shedding shedding the skin of who you were, and pursuing this very narrow road towards the Father. um, I'm curious, have you put any thought into this scripture? Have you read the scripture? Are you familiar with it? And
Yeah.
what your thoughts are about it?
Yeah, 100% I have. It's that constant. We always talk about it kind of in a way as far as like the road is narrow. You know, at the end of the day, it's tough to easily slip off of it, you know, but 100% what we used to live before, that doesn't signify who we are now, you know. So 100% I've lived through it. We've all lived through it, you know. So as soon as I enter, what I see of it, as soon as I enter the gate, all this is peeling off of me. All this is just dropping. All these chains are being broken because I've already chosen to enter the gate. All the hard work starts once you're in it, because then the enemy's gonna come after you even more. That's the way I see it, because of what I've been living is I was so on fire for God, so on fire for God, and He just came. He was like, I know He's doing good. He's on top. Let me try to bring him down again. So once being on that road, trying to get closer to Jesus, try to get closer to just mirroring Him, it gets a lot harder. It gets 100% a lot harder. But it just there's only one place to fall back onto, and that's our Lord and Savior. You know, so 100% it means so much to me, the works of it, the obedience behind it, the faith behind it. You know, there's gonna be victory at the end of it. So I love that I just walked through the gate already. You know, yeah.
So on that road, you did mention the enemy will come after us, right? He will do his best to knock us off of that road. What are some things that you're struggling with right now that you're trying to like persevere through, you're trying to push through, that maybe the enemy is like, hey, like if we can get him here, he's gonna fall off. Is there anything that you're struggling with in that regard?
100%, and it leads back. I love my father. Remember, I love my dad. You know, but it leads back to that, just the relationship of my father and stuff. That's a big impact on me, um, because my father fled. You know, he got caught. He had his situations where case opened up with the DEA, and then he got arrested and all that stuff. And even just then, the things that I did then when he got arrested, and um, they raided his house and all that stuff. Well, they had a warrant out for his arrest, and they got him. I didn't find out till the day after, and in that moment, I had to go. I found out, and I knew what my dad was doing. So it's more of like the enemy also attacked me in there, and that at that moment, uh, he knew that that was a weakness for me, so he pushed me into that. So when my dad had this case around, I'd say around a year ago, um, I was already having this life where I kind of wanted to seep into faith, and I wanted to do better. And I trickle back a little bit about this, but I'm sorry about that. Um, Around that time, around that day, they called me. Hey, you know what? Your dad got arrested. We noticed that they it was pretty bad. It was if I'm not mistaken, like 10, 12 trucks that came up to him and just they went full force on him. Um, and they called me. Hey, Miko, your dad got arrested, and we need to figure out where he's at. We did not know where he was at. When I went home that night, it started settling in. Knowing that my sisters were out there seeing all that, that's what breaks my heart. Because knowing that my dad possibly couldn't be there no more, it's like now I have to step up to the game. I have to step up and be the man of the house. Because yeah, my dad was always there for them. My dad, if they needed anything with their house and needed something to be fixed, my dad was there. My dad always, like I said, he would always put others before himself, and it broke my heart that knowing that my sisters were out there. Just that's one thing that I constantly live is I just want my sisters to know that there is hope, that men can be good, men can do the right thing, men can be providers, men can show love, can be responsible, can go through hard things, and no matter if how low they bring you, if you put God first, He can get you out of it. You know, and it was tough, 100% tough to just know that the enemy's attacks can be so 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 big, and can work quick like that. So, yeah.
So, on this struggle that you've had of being on this walk and being great at it, honestly, I'll give you tons of praise for it because you do a great job with your walk. You have had the occasional like fall back and then continue to move forward, fall back and continue to move forward. How have you seen God's presence in these struggles and in this continuing to push forward lifestyle?
The most I felt God's presence was getting home, being home by myself, and knowing my dad's going through this case. Because at this point, it's like now it's a case. He was arrested for like 5 days. He was in uh, the DEA center in Los Angeles. We didn't know nothing of him. So in those 5 days, it was like I'm losing it. I'm 100% losing. My sisters are losing it, you know, and God's there because no matter what I'm feeling, I'm saying it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right. He's done so much for me already. He's worked so much in my life. It's gonna be okay. This is not the end of it. This might be a bump. This might be a moment for me to just seek Him more, surrender everything to Him, and that's where I've kind of felt that what I surrendered to Him was my life at that point, because feeling the love after is my family was there for me, because I went through all that. I went through all that day. And after those few couple of days, um, our mom reaches out to us, and my mom lived with him. My mom was with him. My mom knew the things that he was doing. My mom ran away from those things. She didn't run away from her kids, but she ran away from that life that he was living. So my mom knew exactly what we were going through. And I feel like in God worked through my mom, as far as like my mom held us accountable of so many things. But it was more like, hey, if you guys need anything, we're here. If you guys want to come over, we're here. Because at this point, my mom was living in Texas. So it was like, if you guys want to come over here, you guys are here. You guys can, like, obviously visit. My mom started telling us, she kind of knew that one day it was going to happen. One day he was going to get caught. Because that life it's not forever. Name me if there's drug dealers out there that are old. It's hard. It's hard. They're not. So in a way, my mom, it was that timing where God's timing was perfectly. She started speaking life into us, 100%. She knew that what we were going through was tough, because living a life without her dad was tough. It's hard. It was like it was becoming reality now. You know. So she started speaking life into us. She was there. She was like, what, like everything's gonna be okay. She didn't shame my dad. She didn't bring my dad down. She didn't start saying like, "Oh, what did I tell you? What did well, So just the way that my mom was so supportive, nourishing us, I felt like that was God working through her. That was like, it's gonna be okay. You're okay. You're loved. You're still loved no matter what. This is just the season. This is just a season. So that constant reminder through my mom was amazing, 100%.
No, I mean, that's awesome. God does that, right? And I mean, the enemy also does it in the opposite way, where God will use people to just remind us of His goodness and His grace and His mercy, whereas the enemy will, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, will use those around you to drag you down, to drag you off of the narrow road. So it's amazing to see that you already have like that discernment to say, okay, well, this is God. God is working right now through my mother. Like, I know that things are tough and things are challenging, but it's going to be okay because God is here. God is with me. He's with my family. And I think that's powerful for people to hear, because I think a lot of times we think, well, when things go wrong, God isn't here. Well, no, God is here, and He's going to use this for the kingdom, right? There's going to be a way out of this. And I think that if more people, not that people don't believe it, but I think for the non-believers that think, well, God is letting all this bad happen. Like how could there be a God if all these bad things are happening? Just be mindful that God is going to use that for good in some capacity that we don't understand right now. And it's amazing to see that you already had that perspective even so early on in your walk. So we talked about things that you've struggled with on your narrow road. What do you feel are some things that you've shown significant growth in? Let's say in this last year that you've been at Coin, like what are some things that you feel like, hey, I'm really proud of this thing that I've done?
I know it's a small thing, but to me it means so much. Aggression, just my emotions, like allowing my emotions to identify who I am. For an example, I used to struggle so much with being prideful in the sense of with my family. There was a point in time where I lasted about 3 years without talking to my older sister. I missed my nephew's the day that he was born was a day that I missed. Like that's pretty bad. And it was over an argument. It was over something pretty dumb. I took the word of my ex-girlfriend over my sister, you know? So that's something that I struggled with back then. 100% is if my family would tell me something, I'd get defensive. And it wasn't in a respectful way. It was I would lash out at them. You know, there was moments where I called them out of their name, you know, and that's not right. 100% the way I see it now is that's not right. Back in the day, I'm telling you, it was something normal to me. It was my in Spanish you say eres un poco hombre when you do those things, and just lashing out at my mom, disrespecting her sometimes, disrespecting my sisters. It goes back to the same thing as like my dad would do that so easily, you know. I mean, you can feel right now that my dad's relation that I had with him, like all that stuff, like it triggered a lot of the things, you know. And I'm not saying that he held a gun to my head and told me to do these things. I decided to do these things, you know. But it was more of like that generational curse from them, from him. And my mom constantly reminds me now that she's so proud of me, of how I've grown, because just those years, let alone that I lived without my family, it 100% I felt so lonely. You know, I felt lonely without them. But just knowing now that I would never do such a thing as far as disrespecting my family, it's now if something ever goes to the table, brings to the table, confrontation or anything, is I walk away or I stay quiet. And then we talk about it later. Back in the day, it was like we would like in public, we would scream at each other. Like, you know, if they were males, we would probably, catching that fate. So yeah, 100%, 100%. It's something I've grown so much in is that is my emotions, being able to control them. Um, I'm not sure if they're fractured or broken, but my thing back in the day was if I had to find something to punch, I had to find something to punch. I had so many holes in my wall. I had to find like what are they called? How to find something to cover them with. It was always like there were so many what do you call it? Frames. So many frames around my room. It was like, why do you have so many frames around your room? Random pictures everywhere. Um, yeah, aggression and I've shared this between my community. It's they tell me how is that possible? Like you're so loving now. You're so gentle now. But it's just God's transformation. It's the way that God transforms us. You know, from one day to another. It's He can remove all that stuff from us. We just have to know how to work with God, how to have God in our lives to be able to remove all that stuff from us 100%.
Yeah. What was that process like for you, to like remove that aggression? Because I mean, it's not something that you can just turn off. It's not a light switch, right? So is there a constant like battle that you face with that? Are you constantly inviting God into that, or what does that look like for you?
I 100% remember the first time that I allowed God into it as far as the aggression. And I still remember it was a day with my mom. Um, she kind of, and it was going to church. I was going to church. I was trying to get all nice and spiffy. I had a nice outfit. I was like, I need to go get a haircut. And she was like, why do you need to dress up for church? You know, why are you trying to be someone that you're not? You shouldn't be having to uh, get all nice and do this. And I lashed out in front of people with her. And I was like, I got all defensive. And that same night, I got on my knees and I was like, God, like, what is not of me, rid of it. Like, get rid of it, please, because this is obviously not working. So I think the instant part of me just surrendering it to God, it's like, okay, you're surrendering it to me. You realize what you're doing is wrong. You want to change. Let's start the process. But he kind of had to see. He waits for us to get to the point where we realize what we're doing is wrong. We want to change it. We're surrendering it, because God has a power to be able to be like, I'm gonna just take this off of you. But we have to willingly have that heart posture to want to change. And that's what happened that night. Because back in the day, I was blind of it. I didn't care what I was doing. I didn't care what I was saying. And I was like, no, my mom deserves respect. She's done so much for me. She's done so much for me. And that day was just, I felt the weight off my shoulders again. So just asking God, praying and just crying, and I want to be someone better. This is not who I want to be anymore. That day that I surrendered that, it was a constant change.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hard, obviously, but
oh, of course.
yeah, there
Yeah.
was, it was just surrendering, having that humility to just be like, I don't want to be this no more. I don't want to be this person anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And Manny and I talked about that. That was a big theme of his testimony was surrender. And I think a big part of that is true surrender. It's not just about saying you don't want to be this person, but truly saying, God, like I am leaving this at the foot of the cross, and please, like, walk with me through this is the important part. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that say they want to be a different person but still want to hold on to that life. They're like, yeah, I want to be different, but only a little bit different, not too different. And it's like, you can't, there's a phrase I heard, I don't know if it was at Coin or someone said it, you can't be half crucified, right? You're either going to be all in and carry your cross, or you're not, right? And to hear you surrender it, and repeat that message that's been said over and over and over again in these interviews is huge, because it has to be a full surrender. I think that's the important part. It has to be full surrender. You mentioned your father multiple times. You even kind of like laughed about it. You can see that my dad's a constant theme in this. Um, right now, have you forgiven your father?
Ah, that's tough. That's a tough one. That one hit me quick. um, I've had a meeting with Pastor Sam once, and we talked about that. You know, um, Forgiveness is a big word for me. You know, it looks like it's the biggest word in the dictionary, but it means a lot to me. I know 100% God is working on my dad little by little. Um, a lot of the things that I did with my dad, I might forgive him, as far as like I don't want to have that hate towards my dad anymore. I have forgiven him in that aspect. There's just so many things that has happened where it's hard to forgive. It's super hard to forgive. Um, as far as the main thing, as far as like the love my dad should have given me, seeing other guys and saying that their dad showed him this, their dad showed him this. I didn't know how to pick up a power tool till I was 18, 19. I had to do that on my own, you know? Um, so I 100%, it's hard to say I'm going to say it right now. Probably not. True forgiveness, probably not. Because there's still a lot of things that hit my heart. A lot of them. And even with my sisters lived a rough life too, where my dad was so hard on us. The love was there, 100%. My dad loved us to death. But I think the life that he lived with his parents and his dad, knowing that the things he would share were, I would complain so much, okay, buy me some cleats, buy me this, buy me that. And he would be like, hey, I didn't have that when I was growing up. But he was still provided that. I still remember that, and I'm super grateful for that. But just a tough love that my dad had towards us, it did shape us to who we are now. We had that tough skin on us. But I feel like now the way I see how my little brother is being raised, with so much love, um, how my friends are with their dads, and they post, and they have that relationship, it hurts me, because I wish God would have entered our lives a lot sooner, to be able to look back and be like, you know what, there's a lot of great memories. Because it sucks that now I bring out all those bad memories, is they overweigh the good ones. They 100% overweigh them. Um, I just wish I had more love from my dad. I wish I had more love in the aspect of when I failed, when I had a rough day, he was there to give me that advice. The advice of sorry. The advice that I got from my dad was more like you should have done better. Should have been a better person. Why did you fail? How did you fail? One thing I remember from my dad back then a lot was ¿por qué eres tan sonso? Ponte las pilas. My dad would always give us this advice, but the dad that I seen was like, you're being a hypocrite 100%. You know? So it's like, are you 100% being honest with the advice that you're giving me? Or is it you're giving me this advice because you're judging who I am? Is it like because you're hating on us because we are trying to change and you weren't able to change? You're not able to better your life, you know? So I know my dad always wanted a better life for us, but he didn't show us that. The life that I live now with my mom and my stepdad, super grateful for them. 100%. Because now that I look at it, is like I always chose my dad over everything. Even after everything that I went through, I was always with my dad. I was a kid and it was 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and I was there looking at roosters being like killed and stuff like that. Something I shouldn't have seen at that age. I was seeing them how they would like mistreat guys. They would not pay up their money. Like I shouldn't have not seen that so young. My sisters didn't live so much through it because they were always with my mom. But I was always like, I want to be with my dad. I want to be with my dad. I want to be with him. I want to be with him. I never left him. I was like a gum stuck to his shoe. And me showing that loyalness to my dad, and then when I expect it from him and not giving it to me, it just breaks my heart. Because I talk so good about, I mean, there was that shame of going to school and knowing my dad was a drug dealer, but I couldn't say it. I would always lie. Oh, my dad, he's a businessman. Oh, yeah, he does this on the side. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I was ashamed of who my dad was. I never spoke it. I never brought it, never brought it to, I never told anybody about it. I felt it, you know? So I just wish, and I know that everything happens for a reason. I can't go back and regret life because I still love my dad no matter what. If God forgave the worst of the worst, if he looked at people that lustfully did so much, his disciples that constantly sinned, and he forgave them, who am I not to forgive them? So that's one thing that I'm battling with 100% right now is, yeah, I go back and I'm being that stubborn person is like, I want to ask for more and more and more. And like, why couldn't my dad love me more, shown me more, is tough, 100%. But I have that love from other people, I have that love from God, you know, God. Pastor Sam told me this once. Yeah, we go through tough times with our fathers, but our Father in heaven is that's where our love comes from. That's the most important thing, you know? And that's what one thing is, I am so grateful for that. Because through my hard times where I think exactly how I am thinking right now, exactly how my emotions arise right now, that's how they arise when I'm by myself. But there's only one way to go. One way to think is our Father in heaven has our back. He's our support system through scripture, through the Holy Spirit, through our community. All that matters more than anything else. Because, yeah, affection does matter 100%. I wish I would have had a hug from my dad. I can count with this hand the amount of times my dad gave me a hug. Very few, very, very, very few. And my sisters are witness of that. And that's one thing too, is that I wish my sisters, and it's tough to ask for because in a Latino family, in a Mexican family, that's hard to ask for. So those are the reasons why looking at the men of coin, prime example, you too, bro. Like just seeing how you are with your family, the way that my dad was with us. I don't want to be that. I don't. It's hard to say that I'm like talking bad about my dad, but it's like no, I want to break those chains 100%. I want to break those chains. I want to, at the end of the day, if my son feels that he can come talk to me and he wants to come talk to me, that he is comfortable with that, that he is not afraid that this happened today and I'm gonna be shouted at or he's gonna be judged, and yeah, life with my dad was tough. Was tough, 100%. Yeah.
To speak some life into you, you're already breaking the chains. Chains generationally are coming off of you day in and day out. Every day that you show up, another chain is falling. To hear this life that you've lived and to see the life that you're living now, there's no question that you're changing the generation, like the trajectory of the generations to come after you. And so I just hope that you can see that in yourself because I've only known you for so much time. And in that time, there's a spark of light that like it just radiates off of you, you know? And the more that you continue to lean into that, the more that future generations for your family are going to continue to just feel the blessings from the Father. And I would just encourage you to continue to push forward. Not that you're going backwards in any way, but just in those moments of darkness, in those moments of struggle, just remember that what you're doing now is generationally affecting your family in such a positive way. And you're going to be an incredible role model for all the men to come after you. They're going to talk about Grandpa Luis. They're going to talk about great Grandpa Luis because it starts with you. So just remember that.
Thank you.
Of course. You've obviously had, a lot to deal with and navigate through. Lessons learned along the way, right? Currently in the season that you're in right now, what do you think God is trying to teach you?
I think part of what he's trying to teach me right now is my identity, self identity. You know, um, all those lies continue to seep in. Is me not trying to be like somebody else, but trying to be like me, who God made me to be. That's 100% the hardest things that I'm going through right now is seeking the identity that God is appointing me to be. And him and I were doing so well in it, 100%, because uh, I'm constantly reminded by my community. Um, Again, Dylan Harris, 100% someone I'm super grateful for because he constantly has those messages. I don't know if you've ever been through that moment where you're going through something throughout the week and then you're just going through it hard and you get that text from your boy in community and he's like, "Hey bro, God put me in, like put you in my heart and I'm going to send you this message." And it has all the details, everything that you everything that you went through that week, it's there. It's like God is reminding me at the end of the day. God works through a lot of us to help others, because we live in a worldly life where we're so used to a worldly life where we feel like we could still do these things on our own, but He tells us you're wrong. We do it, you do it through me, we do it together. So just having Dylan speak life into me, there 100% is he keeps continuing to remind me, your identity is amazing. You think that you're not. You continue to believe the lies of the enemy that you're not enough, that you're not worthy. But he continues to know that he can take me back to my past life. It's easy for me to believe that lie. But when I get the reminders from community, from my boys, from the people that I love, the people that love me, constantly telling me that you're loved, like you just reminded me right now, and I appreciate you for the kind words. I have so many people that do that. And they continue to remind me of my identity, because sometimes I just doubt myself sometimes. And I get that that's okay because everybody doubts. That doubt that you have in yourself, it's a normal thing. I doubt myself because my dad constantly told me that I was a such person, that that doubt arised there from my dad. Um, but that walk that I have with him now, breaking those chains, is it's where I am with God right now. Is identity, just believing who I am is enough for God. You know.
Yeah. That's awesome. Moving forward, you've been at Coin for about a year now. Let's say a year from now. What's a prayer you would give for yourself, I should say?
I say just to continue to be steadfast, have that consistency, obedience, 100%. Biggest thing is grace. Have grace for myself. Just because when we fall short, once we fall short, whatever we did is we start to believe that, you know. 100% scripture wise is fall deeper into it. But I think one thing that I'm like super excited for right now is the CHP Academy that I'm trying to get into. um, is be a leader, be a provider, um, be a God fearing man, 100%. And people consistently remind me that I am that now, but no, there's just levels to it. 100% is, um, I want to be able to wake up in the morning with no chains attached to me, that freedom, that peace, and consistently just know that there is nothing that can get in the way of me and God. Nothing, you know. So that's something that I just pray for constantly is the grace part, and just for constant transformation to continue to rise. And yeah,
What do you hope people who watch this will receive from your story?
God is good. God is loving. He's forgiving, 100%. And there is nothing you can do. There's no one sin is not greater than another, 100%. So just because I went through what I went through and I did the things that I went through, doesn't mean that that's going to take me longer to get to where I am now. Doesn't mean that I can't get there now. God will heal you 100%. But I go back to just surrendering it, you know? Don't try to lean everything on your own. Don't try to do everything by yourself. He's so loving. He's going to remind you constantly that he loves you. And community, I think just emphasizing community, because that's just so big in all of us, is find that person, find that person. Don't be afraid to ask for help, 100%. But I just think that God is going to find someone to work through to get to you. So just be okay to be open about it. Be okay to be vulnerable about it. Um, we're here. We're sitting here. We're conversating. I didn't think I was gonna be at like where I am now. I never saw that back then. I never saw that in my future. Like I thought I was just gonna get worse and worse. I thought that the things that I did were gonna get worse. And God is great. God is great in the way that He's worked in me. So if I can do it 100%, you can do it. Anybody can. Don't believe the lies of the enemy. You know, God's whisper is way louder than the enemy's lies. 100%. You know, so just hear out God. Just hear him out. Hear him out. Give him the chance. Because when I was a non-believer, as far as like I did go to Catholic church, but I didn't. I would always question God. I would always question him, why me? The little things that I would do that would go wrong, I'd be like, why are you doing this to me? This is unfair. The moment that I knew God was real was the day that I surrendered myself to him. The day that I fixated my eyes on him. I looked up and I was like, if you're real, show me. And he showed me. And I might have not seen it in that time, but I see it now. Just stay faithful that in the future, no matter how long it takes, you're going to be victorious because he's already deemed us victorious. He's already named us pure. And that's just one thing that I encourage just people to just continue to go, continue to keep walking, because the longer you hold back, we don't want to block God's blessings. We don't. We want to live in them. So just continue going, continue walking. I had so many setbacks, 100%, but even then, God was like, nope, there's only one way for you. You're not going back. I'm not going to allow you to go back, but we're going to do this together. And God sometimes tells us, figure it out, you know, but it's not so much because he's trying to be a unforgiving God or a non-merciful God. It's just, we have to be able to understand that what we're doing is bad. We have to be able to be like, okay, I'm sorry, God, but you got to help me now because, I can't do it on my own. So yeah, 100% is just, um, you got this, 100%. If I could do it, you could do it. Yeah.
Last question is, if God was sitting in the room with you right now, just you and him, what would you say to him?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one because there's so much that we can say. There's so much. I'd have a book written down with everything that I can tell him. But just 100% is obviously thanks. Thank you, right? That's we always say that it's thank you. But more of it is because of what I'm going through now is, who do you think I can become? Help me figure it out, in a way. But it's just asking him, how much more is there to me, in a way? How much more work is there? Having that conversation, as far as, I know there's more to me. I know 100% there's more to me. But just asking him the question of, can there be more to me, as far as, is this the end, or is there more? That doubt, there's just that little doubt, you know? But just thank you for being so loving, being so forgiving, having my back through everything that I went through. Continue to work through my family. Just ask him to continue to work through my family. Um, and just know that he has a faithful servant. Just give him that, you know? Thank you for everything, but I'm going to serve you to the end, to the very end. The same way that you were here for me, I'm going to be here for you. You know, just letting him know that. I know he knows that already, but giving him that, you got another soldier, you know? I'm 100% going to be here for you. I'm serving you to the depths of it, you know? And just letting him know that I'm not going to fall again. Because with you in my life, there's no possible thing. There's no such thing as falling back again. Because I have him, you know, with me.
Yo, what's poppin', Luis? Yo, I think it's really cool that you're gonna be able to share your testimony with the others at Coin, and just really anyone who can be impacted and just be moved by your story, bro. I know that I was when you shared it with me. And also, just to touch on that, bro, like you've come a long way, man. You've come a long way from the very first time I met you, I think now like a little bit over a year ago, to who you are today, bro. Unrecognizable, man. It's just really cool to see like how far God has taken you, how much you've just given yourself up to the Lord, man. You've allowed God to shape you, and I'm just super excited to see how further the Lord can take you, man, and what else He can do with you, bro. I see a leader, bro. I see light within you, bro. A lot of wisdom, man. I'm older than you, bro, but in conversations, man, I can really learn a lot from you, bro. So that always amazes me, bro. And not just that, man, just like the love, bro. Every time you open your mouth, it's never negative. It's never from a place of hate. It's never from a place of judgment. But it's always with love, with respect. And I could just genuinely tell that you mean that with the best interest in mind when you say things to me, bro. And not just that, man, you're such a vibe, bro. You're a vibe, man. I know you're gonna make a great leader, bro. I've said this before, and to have influence, you have to be liked, and that's just as simple as it gets, bro. And I think I can speak for most people, if not everyone at Coin, that you're highly liked, bro. You're favored at Coin. People draw to you, bro. You're such a good person just to be around with, man. And yeah, bro. Don't stop what you're doing, man. Keep going. Keep that fire, that desire, that hunger, man, for the Lord. I'm just excited to see, man, what the future has in store for you, bro. And man, yeah, I mean, relationship wise, bro, like, I mean, whoever you end up with, man, that girl's gonna be super lucky to have you, bro, because you are one of you're a perfect example of what a man of God is, bro. You're very sacrificial. You're not a selfish man, bro. And I know that you do all things with intent. You know, you're about detail. You're about just making others feel valued and just welcome, bro. And I really appreciate that about you, bro. All right, man. Well, much love, bro, from your compa JC. Love you, dog. Yo, what's poppin', Luis? Yo, I think it's really cool.
That's a good one. Oh. I know this one's gonna be tough.
Luis, mi hermano, I just want to start off by telling you that I love you so much, and what a blessing it is to know you. I am deeply grateful for your yes, and for the fact that the enemy didn't convince you that you didn't belong, because the man you're becoming is so powerful, and it's been such an honor to watch God transform you into the man that He's always intended for you to be. The way you just lay it at His feet, and you're just willing to do the work to become that man. One of my favorite parts is seeing the community just like love on you and see you for who you truly are in your heart. You carry so much kindness, faithfulness, and you have a servant heart. I mean, you're willing to help anyone at any time if they need it. And if that means driving 2, 3, 4 hours, you always just show up with so much joy and you do everything out of love. And all these gifts were present from the day that I met you, but now seeing you pour those gifts back into God's kingdom is so sweet. And just the way that you trust God when things might feel confusing or just heavy truly shows your faith and the person that you are and how deeply you are rooted in Christ. And I just want to tell you that I admire your vulnerability and the way that you lean on community, and it's something that I can learn from. You just make people feel so seen and loved and safe, especially the men in our community. The way I see you just pour into them and lift them up and you just rally around them is the Jesus in you, and I hope you know that. So I want to leave you with this. I love you. Keep going, and you're exactly where God wants you to be.
It's tough. Ah. Yeah. That's what I say, man. Community's number one. Community's number one. It's hard. It's definitely hard for me to hear those words, man. It's hits me because they mean a lot from, especially from them. Them two are the reason why I continue to do what I do. Obviously, God is the number one reason. But yeah, especially Kimberly. Kimberly has spoken life to me ever since day one. And hearing those words, that just those words just speaking life into me, continues to tell me that that's the past person who I used to be is not me. That's not who I am anymore. That's a written statement right there, you know. And it's God reminding me, you know, constantly too, is that this is only the beginning. This is definitely only the beginning, you know. So yeah, love them both. Love my community. Yeah, just thankful for that 100%. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you guys.